Okay. Hello and welcome to the Parsha class, Parsha Tzav 5786. It's going to be a pre-recorded class. It's a crazy schedule most of us have, I'm sure, with Pesach coming, but we should not in any way diminish our learning of Torah. Performing Torah, learning Torah is all part of preparation for this great holiday of Pesach, to feel Hashem's geula, the redemption, the redemption of the past and the redemption of the present, the redemption of the future should all become one as we get closer to Hashem and do what He wants us to do. And in Taam Dagan, we focus on the rules of food and such in the Parsha. If we have a chance next week, there will not be obviously a Parsha class. If we have a chance, we'll try to have a class on the Haggadah, as we rabbis like to do. We find new insights to share with others every year. If God wills it, I'll find scratch out some time next week to do that. Meanwhile, though, back in Taam Dagan, we have a source sheet to share, the Taam Dagan, the commentary on the Parsha. This week's Parsha is Tzav, in which the Torah teaches lessons in the symbolic nature of chametz, the mechanics of kashering, the reasons for so much food being given with the Thanksgiving offering, and more. And with no further ado, let's look at chapter 6, verse 6. Let's try to make this a little bit bigger, shall we? Can we do that? Because it's a little easier to read for myself and others. Eish tamid tukar al mizbeach lo tichbeh. Chapter 6, verse 6 tells us, very important halacha, that we're supposed to, the korban, the Kohen, in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Mishkan as well, have to make sure that there is a constant fire burning. As the Pasuk says, fire shall be kept burning on the Mizbeach continually, it shall not go out. The Talmud learns from here that a Jew should always avoid being extinguished, which can be applied to a person's not lessening one's level of kashrut even while traveling. So the Talmud in the Yerushalmi Yuma 4:6 tells us that there's no reason to be lax sometimes. If there's obviously if there's reason to be lenient in certain circumstances, we can be flexible. On the other hand, that shouldn't come from the fact that your fire is being extinguished, that you're not feeling it. That should never happen. You should always fight that. And especially when you're traveling, oh look, there's all these available foods that I wouldn't eat, where I am. Maybe I can eat them elsewhere. So perhaps people become more lax with these things, and the Tam Vedat tells us that it's not ideal. All right. Next verse says, Zot Torah Hamincha Hakrev Ota B'nei Aaron Lifnei Hashem Al Pnei Hamizbeach. This is the law of the meal offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before Hashem in front of the Mizbeach. The Kohen performing the meal offering is supposed to view the food he is given as being from Hashem's table. Now this is a general rule for all foods that the Kohen eats from the Mishkan. Um, and it's an important concept that when the Kohen eats, it's think about the food you get from somebody chashuv, from somebody important. Multiply that by infinity because we're getting this food not from somebody, but it's Hashem's table, right? So the respect that you're supposed to eat it with, the love that you're supposed to feel when you receive it, all of that is part of the service here. Two verses later, chapter 6, verse 9. And sorry, if we're going too fast, you can't let me know. Maybe in the comments you can let me know. But we're going fast because, like I said, this is a pre-recorded class, and just trying to get the Torah out there. And you can play it slow if you like. V'hanoteret mimena, and whatever's left over from those sacrifices, yochlu Aaron vanav, it belongs to Aaron and his sons to eat. Matzo teachel b'makom kadosh. They're supposed to eat this food without, it should be matzot, unleavened bread, as many of us should know at this time of the year, in a holy place. B'chatzer ol moed yochluha. They're supposed to eat it in the chatzer, in the courtyard of the tent of meeting, and that's where they shall eat it. Now, this last word, especially, we're going to be dealing with, the Talmud happens to mention that this is a word that seems completely unnecessary, seemingly an extraneous word, and so we're definitely going to need to see if there what the commentaries tell us about this. So let's start with, before we get to the last word, let's start with the earlier part of the verse. Since Hashem in this verse did not need to state that the remainder of the sacrifice should be eaten, quote, in a holy place, end quote, the sages learned that it can be eaten, and this is the Gemara in Zvachim 56a, on top of the page, that they learn that this can be eaten in rooms overlooking the courtyard. It doesn't have to actually be in the courtyard itself. It can be eaten sort of as long as you can see, as long as you're almost there in the courtyard. That counts. There were special rooms in the Beit Hamikdash where you were sort of like overhanging into the courtyard, and that's also considered the courtyard since you're over it, literally. Furthermore, homiletically, the verse can be saying that matzot must be eaten in a holy place. What's a holy place for us to eat matzot? In our mouths, the mouths of holy people. We must therefore keep our mouths holy in order to merit to eat the Pesach matzot as well. When the Kohanim eat whatever is left of the flour and oil mixture after the chametz is taken, there might not be enough to satisfy them. And in that case, the sages, I think this is the Gemara in Tamura, yeah. The sages teach that from the seemingly extra word yochluha, that's that extra word we were talking about, they shall eat it, that the Kohanim add from the non-consecrated food and truma to fill in the gap to make the eating more significant. Again, we're eating from the table of Hashem. So if it's not satisfying, if it's not enough, there's got to be something wrong. So you can add to it, and from these other foods. Or else they might be guilty of achila gasa, of overeating, chas v'shalom, which is another issue that we've at least touched upon in this class, but we'll deal with more as we get further into the Torah. At this point, we're about halfway through, by the way. Okay, according to our judges in the Gemara in Brachot 17a, leavening may be symbolic of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. You might have heard that before. And what's the evil inclination's job? It's to encourage us to follow our natural instincts, to be more physical, more animalistic, to not be spiritual. That's kind of to sort of weigh us down. That's sort of the idea of the Yetzer Hara. It's the test that Hashem created in this world so that we have challenges to receive reward from. By slaughtering a sacrifice, a person symbolically slaughters one's own evil inclination. Interestingly, the two loaves of Shavuot, that's bread, right, specifically need to be leavened because if not, for the evil inclination, humans would not need the Torah any more than angels. And it was this very argument with which Moshe defeated the angels to receive the Torah. If you recall the Gemara in Shabbat 89a has a whole long discussion when the Hashem tells Moshe to take the Torah from him. This is at Har Sinai. Again, this is all obviously metaphoric. And Moshe is about to take it. The angels launch a complaint. How can human beings handle the Torah? So there's a whole big discussion there, and Moshe says, Hashem, help me out here. And Hashem says, no, you got this. You answer the angels. So Moshe says to the angels, "Do you have a mother and father that you might disrespect? Do you have?" And he goes through the list, certain mitzvot. Do you commit murder that you need the Torah to tell you what to do? So the Torah is irrelevant to you. It kind of brings up the point of why did they make an argument to begin with? That's a whole long discussion, and a lot of people have their answers. I have my own answer to the question as well. If you can contact me privately if you wanna hear what I have to say about that. But at this point, but his argument is that we have a Yetzer Hara. We're human beings. We have a Yetzer Hara. We need the Torah. You don't. And the angels gave up and they said, "Yeah, you're right. Here, you can take the Torah." So it's because of the Yetzer Hara that we have the Torah. Therefore, in the day that we celebrate getting the Torah on Shavuot, we eat bread that has leavening. And, because again, we're saying sort of like a yesher koach to the Yetzer Hara that it's thanks to it that we have the Torah. Okay. After all, the evil inclination is necessary, and without it, a person would neither build a house nor marry. In combination with Torah, there's no concern that it could actually lead to evil, for the Torah is the antidote to it. Barati Yetzer Hara, Barati Torah Tavlin. Hashem created the Torah as the antidote to the Yetzer Hara. So, for this reason, all breads, except for the Shavuos one that we just mentioned, must be unleavened for sacrificial purposes anyway. Let's make that clear. There we go. And that's, I think, based on the Kli Yakar that put that together for us. All right, Baruch Hashem, chapter 6, verse 14. Al machvat b'shemen tasa. You have to fry it on like a frying pan, a griddle. Markevet to Vienna. When it's soaked, bring it to fino minchat pitim in broken pieces. Takriv reach nichoach laHashem, and it's going to be a sweet smell, a pleasant smell for Hashem. Pleasant. All right. Again, we've talked about in the previous classes, the pleasant smell doesn't literally mean necessarily that it smells good. Hashem doesn't really care about the smell. It's that we're listening to what He says, and that's pleasing to Hashem. Now, according to Rashi, this is when it says it's supposed to be broken up, it doesn't literally mean broken up. It means it's folded as if it's broken. It's folded in this way, sort of creating a shape by folding it over these 4 times into pieces. It's to fill up the pan as much as possible to lessen any embarrassment the poor person may feel about one's financial situation. So again, this is brought down in Talalei Orot. That's kind of the reason for this mitzvah of breaking slash folding up these pieces of matzah really over the pan, so that it looks like there's more of it. Obviously, folding it creates a sort of like bulk, right? It doesn't seem like just a little cracker was given. Okay. Chapter 6, verse 16. V'chol minchat kohen kalil tiyeh lo te'achel. Every meal offering of the kohen shall be completely turned to smoke. It shall not be eaten. So since the kohen who officiates the meal offering korban of another Jew usually eats most of it, his eating his own meal offering would be like him sacrificing nothing, right? Therefore, it needs to be completely burnt. Explains the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim. Since it needs to be burnt up completely, it cannot be mixed with other blood and be batel. So this is another source for the concept of min b'mino. There are several sources for this, but the Gemara in Menachot 22a, Zvachim 77b, the Rambam brings this up in Yeridea 98 where this concept of min b'mino, which is again we've spoken about previously last Parsha, in fact, about the concept of when there's a mixture of a forbidden substance with a non-forbidden substance, but the substance are actually the same thing, the same species of an animal, say, shechted cow with a non-shechted cow, for instance, or anything like that. So there's this concept of min bimino, of an object in its same type, which creates certain complications with regard of being batal, of being nullified. Obviously, it's so similar to the same thing. It's hard to distinguish it, which makes it a challenge. Okay, chapter 6, verse 20. Kol asher yiga bivsara, whatever shall touch its meat, will be holy. Yikdash. Vasher yiza badama, and when the blood is sprinkled, when its blood is al habeged asher yiza alaha, on whatever garment some of that blood may splatter, tichabis b'makom kadosh, it should be washed in a holy place. It has to be washed in the Beit Hamikdash area, in the Mishkan area. It needs to be washed because that blood is from the sacrifices. There's a holiness, a sanctity to this. An object can absorb from a food through contact with it, especially when it is hot. And that's what Rashi says there, which is the basic concept behind how things become not kosher, how a vessel, how a pot, how a fork, or whatever can become not kosher is because it was in contact, hot contact, with a food that from which it could have absorbed some flavor. Okay, chapter 6, verse 21. Uchli cheres asher tevashal bo, any earthenware vessel. One second. Let's make sure that's clear. Earthenware vessel. Yishaver, if it will have to be broken if there was a tevush albo, if it was cooked in it, right? If something that should not have, not should not have, but you can't. Basically, what we'll see is that this cannot be earthenware cannot be koshered as if it would be if it was metal. The im bekli nechoshet bushla bushala, if he cooked it in a metal vessel, in the choshet, it's copper. Umorak v'shutaf b'mayim, then it should be boiled and rinsed and watered. So that's again, like we were saying, as many of you might be going through in your private lives right now. That's the basic concept behind kashering things. So as opposed to metal, and we'll learn more about that later when we get to Bamidbar 31, God willing, earthenware vessels cannot be koshered. Why? Because we're unsure of how much flavor can be absorbed in the walls, and likewise, how much flavor can be removed from such a porous material, right? We don't know with metal, if you make it hot enough, we'll be positive, we'll be 100% sure that there's absolutely no flavor left in there. But there's a lot of crevices and places to hide in earthenware vessels. So that's not the same thing. By earthenware, not by, one moment. Regarding earthenware, the Torah is referring to a vessel which has been fired in a kiln, whereas an earthenware vessel that was dried in the sun perhaps may be koshered. I say perhaps because there are different poskim regarding this issue, but many poskim are lenient and say that that's not considered earthenware for our purposes. Ceramic and corningware are included in the category of earthenware vessels that may not be koshered. Furthermore, koshering is different for hektish as opposed to other forbidden mixtures in that besides pouring boiling water, the vessel also requires being rinsed in cold water to become kosher again. So that's when it comes to hektish. And non-hektish things, that's not a necessity. According to the Talmud in Zvachim 95b, this should be understood as though it is said that an earthenware vessel that absorbs of a sin offering by way of cooking, since the same law applies even if one poured boiling broth into the vessel. This is a Rav Hirsch saying. This is connected to the question of whether, even with other forbidden foods, pouring hot liquid onto something considered the same as cooking and has the same status of a first vessel or second vessel as a kli rishon or kli sheni. For those halachic concepts, I think we'll have to take we'll have to look at those a little later. And we've talked about kli rishon and kli sheni in other contexts. Maybe I'll reference that in here when I find it more quickly elsewhere. All right. Okay, next verse, chapter 7, verse 6. And you thought Tzav had nothing to do with food, right? Chapter 7, verse 6. Ki zachar kohanim, the male kohanim, yochlana can eat from this offering. The makam kodesh yeachel, they should eat it in a holy place. Again, in the Beit HaMikdash area. Kodesh kodashim, who this is a holy of holies. So only male kohanim may eat the asham. Gentiles, by the way, may bring offerings to the Mishkan, but they may not bring an asham because it requires eating. Philosophically, although they might understand what is holy and what is profane, their philosophy cannot synthesize the dichotomous holy sanctity of humans eating from Hashem's table. It's one of the more famous ideas of Rav Hirsch in Chumash, quoted many times in lots of different contexts. But the idea, as we've said, actually, from these these sacrifices, it's not just food that these kohanim are eating; they're eating Hashem's food, whatever that means. We said that in chapter 6, verse 7, and here that concept is very foreign to most other philosophies, which is why a Gentile who brings an asham, a Gentile who brings an offering cannot bring an asham. Chapter 7, verse 9. V'chol mincha asher te'afeh b'tanur, any mincha that was cooked in an oven, is baked in an oven, obviously. V'chol na'aseh b'marcheshet, and anything that was made in a pan. V'al minchat hakohen hamekrivota lo tiyeh, and anything and on the griddle, it shall belong to the kohen who offered it. Lo tiyeh, it should be his. It sounds like it should only be his. That's why we need Rashi to tell us the flour and the oil offerings belong to the Beit Av, servicing the Mishkan at the time of the donation. So what's the Beit Av? Good question. Should probably explain that. The Beit Av is the group of Kohanim that that worked in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, I guess, in shifts. Right? So it belongs to all of them because they're working there at this time. So therefore, they're servicing the Mishkan, and they at the time of the donation. So this belongs to them. Okay, a few more comments on Parsha Tzav, chapter 7, verse 13. Al chalut lechem chametz yakriv karbano al zevach todat shlamav. With cakes of leavened bread, so this is chametz, he shall present his offering with a sacrifice of his peace offering of thanksgiving. So this is a thanksgiving offering, and this is unusually it's lechem chametz. Why is it chametz? The reason for the uniquely leavened bread brought by the person offering a thanksgiving offering is meant to serve as a reminder that whatever difficulty from which Hashem in His mercy rescued the person was actually caused by the person's own evil inclination. Right? You wouldn't have gotten in any trouble to begin with, we're assuming, if it weren't for you listening to Yetzer Hara. So says Sforno that this, and again, based on what we just said from the Gemara earlier, that the Yetzer Hara is symbolized by chametz. So the chametz is supposed to remind the person, this thing that Hashem saved me from. The reason I'm bringing this Thanksgiving offering is actually it originated from me, from my own behavior. Hashem wouldn't have needed to rescue me if it weren't for that. Okay, next, chapter 7, verse 15. Uvsar zevach todat shlamav biyom karbano yeyachel. The meat of the sacrifice of his peace offering shlamav biyom he should biyom karbano yeyachel. The day that he brings it, the day he offers it is the day that he shall eat it. Lo yeniach mimenu ad boker. He shall not leave any of it. There should be, that's lina, right? It shouldn't wait till the next day until the morning. So it has to be eaten that day. So sacrifices need to be eaten on the day that they are sacrificed or the next day, says Rashi. A person bringing an offering has the entire night to eat it, but the sages limited this time frame to midnight in order to help the person avoid an error, distancing that person from sin. This is one of the first teachings of the entire Shas. The first pages of Brachot talk about how, although really you have a certain amount of time to eat truma, etc., and the afikomen, as we're going to see next week, the rabbis limited it to midnight to sort of make sure we didn't get to the point where it was too late. So the great amount of food, this is a lot of food that's being brought by this person offering the Thanksgiving offering, is meant to encourage a great attendance at the person's meal. He's going to invite other people. He can't eat all this much food. That's impossible. He's going to invite other people, but this would better publicize Hashem's miraculous actions. So people are gonna ask, why are you having this meal? Why are you having the Thanksgiving meal? And he'll say, oh, Hashem rescued me. I was in a dangerous situation. I was going through the desert, and I didn't think I was gonna make it. I was getting dehydrated, and all of a sudden, a bus pulled up, and they had air conditioning and the water to drink and food to eat, and kept me out of the elements, etc. So that people are going to say, wow, that's amazing. It's a great miracle. And she said, that's right. That's the whole point. And again, that's part of the idea. That's one of an idea of the Seforno about why we have this great amount of food at the Suda Hodat, the Thanksgiving offering. Okay, chapter 7, verse 18. If any of the meat of the sacrifice of his peace offering is at all eaten on the third day, remember he's supposed to have eaten it by now. If he's eating it on the third day, lo yiratzeh, it shall not be accepted. Hamakriv oto lo yechadesh lo. It's not going to be good for the person who offered it. Pigul yet. It's pigul. It's a disgusting thing. V'hanefesh ha'ochele, and the person who eats it, mimena avona tisa, has done a sin. So he has done something wrong. Pigul, and there's a lot of Gemaras about this. Pigul is the intent upon bringing an offering to eat it on the third day. If the person has to have in mind, I'm not going to eat it today. I'm not going to eat it tomorrow. I plan on eating it on the third day, and just that intent itself, or according to some opinions, the expression of that intent. So somebody he said it right. Because just thought isn't usually considered a sin, right? So only the Kohen performing the service can be guilty of this, according to Rashi. Now, obviously, it's not the person bringing it. The person bringing it isn't having this intention. The Kohen is the one who's going to eat it. So the Kohen is either intending or saying out that he plans on eating this on the third day. Okay, well, nefesh asher tuchal basar, right? But the person that eats of this meat, of this yeah, mizevach shlamim asher la Hashem, from these sacrifices, peace offerings that belong to Hashem. Um, utumato alav, and he is impure for whatever reason. Let's say he dealt with the dead body recently. He was, I don't know, he was working he went to a funeral. Who knows? Nikrita hanefesh hahi me'ameha. That person is cut off from the Jewish people. He gets what's the nikrita. He gets the punishment of karet. We've spoken about this before. It's not an easy. It's not an easy punishment to describe. I think the Ramban probably does the best job, but but even so, it's basically either an early death or the death of one's children, God forbid, or early death also, God forbid. But or it could also mean somebody died, depending on the level of karet. According to the Ramban, there are different levels of karet, but it could be that it's that in the world to come, metaphorically speaking, the person is never attached, never feels the warmth, the glow of the Shekhinah, of Hashem's presence, whatever that means. Okay, so again, the Ramban can get very mystical at times, but for what it's worth, that's what it means to be cut off. You lose your spiritual pleasures of the future world. So that's a pretty serious punishment, right? So the punishment for eating while tame or eating tame hektish is pretty serious. Um, so in chapter 7, verse 23, it's a short, really short verse, um, but there's an important lesson here from those nine with Torah. It's worth bringing up, especially in a class like this. Chapter 7, verse 23. Daber el bnei Yisrael, more speak to the Jewish people, saying, Kol chelev, chshor, v'kesev, v'ez, lo tochelu. The chelev, the forbidden fats of the ox, sheep, or goat, you may not be eaten. It says this in the Torah, the reasons given in the Torah for chukim are not their sole reasons. In other words, sometimes the Torah gives you a reason. So here it's kind of clear. It's forbidden to eat these things. So there's going to be a punishment. But even if the Torah would give you a reason, like what's wrong with eating chalev? You know, what does it do to me spiritually, physically, psychologically? So even if the Torah would give you a reason, that wouldn't necessarily be the only reason. That's important because sometimes we wonder, why is this forbidden? Why is that forbidden? Why is that allowed? Why not? So it's worth asking the questions. I'm not in any way discouraging somebody from asking the questions, but you have to know that getting the answer isn't always going to be satisfying. Sometimes the question is better than the answer, first of all, and other times the answer is very limited. There's only you're only getting part of the answer. You might not understand the full thing until later on in life. Um, the chukim like this, it's a chok. It's on purpose. It's purposefully without a necessary reason. As we'll see in the next verse, by the way. Hachelev nedelev, hachelev treifa, yaseh lechol malacha, v'achol lo tochluhu. And the fat of that which died by itself, it's a nevela. The chelev treifa, and the fat of that which was a torn animal, right? It was shechted incorrectly or whatever. Yaseh lechol malacha may be used for any other service. You can use that meat. You can use the skin. It's not like it's not like evil. Oh, you can't use it. It's not kosher animal. It's dirty or something like that. This is not the laws of halal, right? Lahavdil. But you may not eat it. Eating you can't do. Um, And Rashi here points out that chalev does not transmit tuma of nevela. So even though nevela has a tuma, has an impurity about it, it's chalev if it's separated somehow. If you just have the chalev, you want to use it for I don't know wax candles or something like that. Not wax, obviously, animal fat candles. You can use chalev to make candles. Just touching it or carrying it or anything like that does not create the kind of tumor that a dead animal would. Next verse, chapter 7, verse 25. Ki kol ochel chelev mina behema asher takriv mimenu ishe la'Hashem v'nichreta hanefesh ha'ochelet me'ameha. For somebody who eats the fat of the animal, of which the men present an offering made by fire to Hashem, that soul, that each shall be cut off from his people. Right? So, um, right? So waiting until the second day of Pesach, says the Ramban, is the only condition for eating new grain. Why does he say that here? I don't know. We'll have to go back to this. The prohibition against eating chalev is specific to kosher animals. So uh, obviously, you're not allowed to eat the chalev of a non-kosher animal, but it's two averot, right? If you're eating the chalev of a non-kosher animal, I take that back. Um, yeah, but it's the we're talking about here specifically a kosher animal. Okay. Um, last comment for this week's parsha, chapter 7, verse 26. V'chol dam lo tochlu, you may not eat any blood. B'chol moshvatechem, in any of your dwelling places. Right? La'ov v'la whether it's a bird or an animal. Weirdly translated, I guess. Yeah. And you shall eat no manner of blood. You shall how about not eat blood? Any blood. Any blood. V'chol dam, any blood you shall not eat. You shall not eat. Good. Okay. In any of your dwelling places, whether it be a fowl or of animal. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. The prohibition against eating blood applies everywhere. First of all, Kol Moshvotechem, Rashi learns from the Gemara and Kedushin that applies for all places. And the blood of fish and kosher grasshoppers is kosher, says Rashi in another comment on this verse. Obviously, they're kosher grasshoppers. Look at Shemot 14:20 for more about that. But they should be labeled or otherwise marked to avoid marit ayin. So that's the Gemara in Kritut 21b tells us that any time that you're drinking fish blood, people won't know that people won't understand what you're doing unless they might think that you're drinking actual blood, animal blood, and that would be a problem. Therefore, you should make some sort of sign, either leave the scales around or label it by a label machine, whatever helps. And that's sort of the idea. Okay. I thank you for your time. If you had a chance to listen through this Parsha class, it it was I'll be honest with you, it was a little bit difficult to prepare during this busy week, but I hope it was worthwhile if you were able to gain any Torah from the experience. All right, again, thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your week. And I won't see you until I might not be able to see you until after. So, Chag Kosher v'Sameach should be a beautiful holiday, as we said before. Take care.